Alright, who's ready to cut some hay? We're going to start here at the new field. The regrowth is none too shabby. Somehow it managed to make it to seed again, even though I set it back a fair old bit. But color's not too bad for not having any fertilizer on it either. It's a little light, but we'll get it cut and then watch the weather. And next time we're going to be getting a decent rain, I'll go grab another load of fertilizer, and I figure put about 50 pounds an acre on both of them. Should do pretty decent. So, but it's Friday. I wanted to cut hay yesterday, but we had a pop-up thunderstorm come through, dropped about a ½ inch of rain, which I will take. I'm not complaining. We got lucky, we got rain. The further south you go, the more you got. I had a ½ inch in my gauge, boss had 4/10, and then you get much further north of him and there was basically nothing. And just a little south of here, they were getting an inch or more, so 3/4 would have been better, but I'll take a half. Who'd have thought that the way this spring went in the beginning of this summer that we'd be asking for rain at this point, but here we sit. You ain't gonna sit anywhere decent. Supposed to get pretty darn hot. It's supposed to get pretty darn hot this weekend, so Sunday is supposed to be almost 100, which is going to be great for baling. But it should mean that we should be able to make this in 3 days. Mow it and crimp it today, let it sit tomorrow, and probably rake it and bale it Sunday. So, but anyhow, let's get to cutting. Ordering a new pack mount. This thing is getting on my last nerve. This wet hole actually is. I mean, it shouldn't be wet. I really wish I hadn't put these ruts in it. Oh, I think we're good to get through here. I mean, them ruts ain't standing full of water. Although there really ain't much for decent grass right here, so maybe I just swing out around the ruts and call it good. Well, I started running in third gear there after I got it opened up, and it cuts just as good as running in second. So I was like, you know, you watch any old promotional videos or anything like that of guys cutting hay with these old sickle mowers, and I mean, unless video sped up, them old boys are just scooting. So I was like, screw it, I'm gonna try to jump a gear and see what happens. And honestly, I mean, it has little to no negative effect on the cut quality, and the grass, or you know, what it's cutting clears the bar a heck of a lot nicer than running in second. It's just, there's so much crap to mow around in this field and the other field that running in third, like I don't know if I might be able to run in third in part of that other field, but, and I mean, third gear wide open in one of these things is probably like 4.5 mile an hour. So I mean, it's nothing to scoff at. You're scooting right along. You're not disc 9 speed, but I mean, you ain't slouching either. So let me get folded up here. We'll get over the other field, get that cut. I think it's safe to say that it takes about a year for this mix to come into its own, because this stuff is thick and tall. I mean, granted, it's tall because it should have been mowed about 3 weeks ago, but, and I seem to have gotten, other than a couple stragglers down here along the edge, seems like I've got all the thistle out of it, so that's good. So it's gonna be interesting cutting this. Hopefully it doesn't plug too much, because there's a lot of the deer have been bedding down in it, and there's a lot of spots I think that just the wind and weight of the grass and everything's kind of matted it down. So it's gonna be interesting. It probably wouldn't have been too terrible. I don't think it was, well, it was obviously the height, but where it was all matted down and everything, it was soaked to the bone and it didn't want to slide off the, that's the first time since I started cutting hay with that thing where I was like, my kingdom for a disc bind. But we got it. Curious to see how bad it looks once I get it raked up and you can actually see what the cut quality was, but is what it is. It's laying on the ground now. There's gonna be a lot of hay out here. That stuff was thick. But anyhow, now we gotta go get to 66 in the crimper and hopefully not plug the crimper. That wouldn't be, yeah, that's positive thoughts. All right, we're gonna start here at this mess and see what happens. I got it set. I did it out on the edge of the road to make it easier. I think I got it pretty decent, so I guess we'll have to see what happens. it's not going too bad, except for I should have checked the belts before I came over here. They must have stretched a little bit last year, and now in this tough stuff they're slipping even where there's no wads. So, and unfortunately I don't have, all I got in here with me is a crescent wrench, so Dad's bringing me a socket and a ratchet so I can tighten the belts up real quick, and hopefully that takes care of it. Definitely a learning experience. I've never slugged a crimper before, and I think I did it half a dozen times out here, but I learned why it does it. Because I was like, okay, it's slugging on plug piles from the mower, because, you know, I got plug piles out here just because it was difficult to cut. Nah, it's not the plug piles. It'll eat plug piles just as fast as you can stuff them through. The only time it plugged was if it got into a spot where the mower had plugged and there was some full height grass yet pushed down underneath the windrow, and it'd get a hold of that grass and wrap it around the rolls. But just driving along in good cut grass, you could stuff it through that thing as fast as you wanted to. It didn't care. It actually worked really good at evening out plug piles. There was a couple spots I hit in a couple different directions, kind of zigzagging through and stuff just to spread the plug piles out, and it worked really good for that. It's also kind of funny how if you go the opposite direction of what you mowed it, it'll try to plug. But once you've already crimped it once and it's been conditioned once, you can drive whichever direction, crossways, backwards, any direction you want, and it'll eat it. Which, my only experience running crimper has been behind a hay bine, which hay bine, obviously, conditioning it coming out the back of the mower, so it looks like this coming out the back of the mower. So, I was always used to running crimper. You just started at one side of the field and you worked your way across, just going back and forth. It wasn't until I got the sycamore that I figured out you got to run in the same direction you were cutting, at least for the first round. And then once you got it conditioned once, then you can go whichever direction you want. But anyhow, this field's done. We still got to go get the other one done, and it is 8:30. So, but that field's gonna go a lot quicker because I didn't have, that field wasn't nearly as tall and as thick as this one. I got really lucky. was driving along the end rows here and heard a pop, and it got noticeably louder. Wouldn't you know it, I found a hunk of rebar. I don't know how it didn't manage to go all the way through, but it just like caught that corner right there. But basically whatever it did when it went through, it put a hickey in that flight right there and a little one right here. So that's the only damage I see. Somehow I got no clue where the hell this came from. You thought I would have found it doing something else, but yeah, that was neat. So it ain't gonna hurt it to finish what little bit I got left to do here, but could have been a hell of a lot worse, I'll tell you what. Well, taking that shield off, or deflector off the back, was definitely a good idea. Damn near looks like you tedded it. Oh, this is gonna smell good in the morning. But anyhow, this field would probably make pretty easy on Sunday. That other field, I don't know. As thick as it was, and all the spots that were laying down were really wet. But it might surprise me, I don't know. Must have to play it by ear, but for sure I'm just gonna let them both lay for tomorrow, and if I do end up doing any raking, it won't be until Sunday afternoon, and we'll probably rake it fairly close to right ahead of the baler. So we'll just have to see how things play out, but that at least gets it on the ground. And it's actually, this field is actually some really nice hay. There was some tall stuff that was kind of stemmy, but there was also a lot of really nice succulent undergrowth. This field's gonna make some nice hay. That other field pretty stemmy. Probably make better cow hay than horse hay, just because, but then again, there really is no good first cutting this year. Nobody's really started cutting hay until about the last week and a half, so everything's basically been as tall as this field over at Shelly's mom's place. I mean, you're talking chest high, nasty, stemmy. First cutting this year has been atrocious. There has been people that have cut hay 2-3 weeks ago, but it was the people that they have critters and they were out of hay and they needed to get hay cut, and most of it got rained on, if not once, twice. It's just, we haven't had good haymaking weather up until probably about the last week, in all honesty. But anyhow, I'm gonna get home, put this back in the barn, try to get this video up tonight so that it's out of the way, and we'll just have to remember before next cutting to pull that crimper over to Mom and Dad's, and it's probably, since you can't get to it really, you're gonna have to heat it with a torch and try to beat them back out straight, but I don't think it'll be too big of a deal. And that one's gonna be harder than this one, but actually where it's at, if you get it good and hot, can probably take the alligator in the porta power and just jack it back apart straight. I just can't believe I didn't hook that rebar with the mower. It's weird that this picked it up of all things, but well, nothing's broke, just a couple bends that are easy enough to straighten out. So my worst fear was when it first got really loud was that I took out a bearing or something stupid. But so anyhow, I guess that's it for this one. We'll catch you guys on the next one, which will be spraying, because tomorrow we got to get on corn and beans, and both need done, but we're going to start on corn, and I'd like to get at least 40 acres knocked out tomorrow. But anyhow, that's it for this one. I'll catch you guys on the next one.